Okay. And Aisling, if you could start recording in the French version as well, please. Great. Well, it's so good to see so many of you here today. Thank you so much for coming along to this briefing session. So today this session is going to be led by myself. My name is Caroline Rose. I'm from Lumos, and my colleague Lucy. I'll let you introduce yourself, Lucy.
Hi everyone, it's great to see you all. My name's Lucy Holton and I work at the Consortium for Street Children. So I'll be co-facilitating with Caroline today.
Great, thanks Lucy. So what I will do is just go through a few things quickly. As you know, we have some, sorry, 1 second, I just need to give Aisling permission to record. How do I do that?
Sorry, I've just changed my name on one of them to Aisling Redwith FR. So that should let you know which one to give permission to.
Allowed to record local files. Okay.
Yeah.
And that should be fine. Tell me if you can do it and then I'll carry on.
It's still asking me for permission.
It says I've given permission.
Was it to the one that I'm speaking on? Okay.
I'll give both of them permission.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I can try out this one. Okay, if you can hear me, I think I'm recording now in French.
Yeah, we can hear you. I could hear you doubly, but good. I can see that there's a recording button next to your name now, so we're all good. Sorry, everybody. Great, thanks, Aisling. I'm going to mute the other user. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Sorry about that. Now we're ready to go. So just to say again that for anybody who missed it or for anybody who didn't understand the first time, we have French and Romanian interpreting available today. So you need to go to the bottom of your screen where there is a button that says interpretation, and you click on it. It looks like a little world. And you click on that and then you can choose your language out of the 3, English, French or Romanian. Even if you are listening in English and you can hear me now and you have not yet selected your language, please do select English, because otherwise when people start speaking in French or Romanian, you won't receive the translation. So please do select your language now. Other housekeeping bits. I think 1 or 2 people are receiving also translation in their country office in their own language. So I just want to please remind everybody to speak slowly and to leave some pauses when you speak so that there is enough time for them to catch up. Also, if you are one of those people, please let us know if we are going too fast and you need us to take a break so that you can catch up. Or if you miss anything, you can type in the chat and we will be able to respond, and that will let us know that you need something from us. Anybody at any time, if you have a question, you can type in the chat. We had yesterday a little issue with the language interpretation at one point. So if it's at some point the language interpretation stops, you can tell us in the chat again. So please feel free to use that for any messages that you need to share with us. I think that's everything I need to say about housekeeping at the moment. Just that let's all remember to all be respectful. And I think we obviously have children and young people and adults from lots of different countries participating today, which is really exciting. And please, just to make sure that we're all being respectful to each other, and that we're all, when it's our turn to listen, that we're listening. And please, everybody, be on mute when you are not speaking, because otherwise we have that echo that you just heard with me and Aisling. Okay.
Caroline, I'm sorry. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah.
There is an issue here with the Romanian channel. They do not. There is a message from Eugenia in the chat. They cannot hear me because I don't know if they can hear me. If you can tell them, what they have to do actually is to update their Zoom. Maybe they have an older version of Zoom. That's why they cannot see the Romanian channel. I don't know if it's the case to do it now. But if you could you please tell it from your position, because they don't hear me.
Yeah, okay. Eugenia, can you hear me? I'm just, the Romanian translator, the Romanian translator was just explaining, and it might be because Nicoletta has an older version of Zoom. So she might need an update to Zoom to be able to use the new language translation. So I don't know if that's possible for her to do now, or I don't know, Aisling, because one other option would be to set the Romanian channel up on one of the old language channels, I suppose. Do you think that would work?
Yes, for sure, it will work. You can have, I don't know, Spanish or Italian.
Okay. Seeing as, do we have any additional person that needs Romanian translation today? Could you put your hand up if you do? Okay. So what we'll do is we'll put, Aisling, I think if we just, I'll do it because I can only.
Yeah, if you can make me a host, I'm happy to do it now, and you can continue.
Okay, we'll do that. So what we usually use the German channel then. So let's stick with what we know, and we'll use the German channel for Romanian interpreting. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I will let Nicoletta know to choose German.
Great. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Aisling, which one of you should I make a host? Does it make a difference? I'm going to do the one that says FR.
There are two interpreters, Natalia, myself, and Tatiana. So please give us the same channel to both of us.
Perfect. Aisling, if you're happy to do that, okay, message me in the chat if you're not able to. But I think I've made you host now. I can't hear you if you're trying to tell me that you can.
It's fine. I have German, and I see that Tatiana also has a German sign. So I think it's fine. Thank you.
Okay, great. Perfect. So sorry everybody for the delay, but now if you are listening in Romanian, please choose German. If you're listening in French, please choose French. If you're listening in English or somebody's translating for you from English, stay on the English channel, please. Great. Thanks very much. Apologies for that little delay there. Okay, so the next thing will just be to go through the agenda for today, and I'll hand over to Lucy for that, and I will share my screen so that you can see a version of the agenda.
Excellent, thank you, Caroline. And that's great. It seems like the Romanian translation is working now, so that's good news. I'll just give you a second, Caroline.
So can you see a purple and green document?
I can, excellent, thank you. So everybody should be able to see the English on the left and the French on the right-hand side. So I'm just going to run through today's session very quickly, and then we can get into the actual content of today. So we've just started off with the welcome and the overview of the session, which I'm just running through now. We're going to have a quick icebreaker or just round of introductions for the children and young people on the call, just so that we all know who's here and we can briefly get to know each other. And then Caroline's going to provide you with a brief overview of the DGD, how it came about and what it's all about. And after that, there'll be some time for questions and answers. So if you do have questions, you can either pop them in the chat box when you think of them, or there will be time for you to ask them. Then we'll have a 10-minute break to make sure that we all have time to step away from the screen, because we know it's quite a long meeting. And once we get back from that break, then we'll go into the more technical information. So Caroline will help you to understand the agenda for the DGD, because we know there's quite a lot of different things going on. So we'll talk through that. Then we'll talk about how you can access the sessions and the working groups. So if you've got practical questions about how to sign up, how to use the online system, and how to join the working groups, then we'll talk through all of that, and hopefully that should be clear. We'll also talk about how you can feel safe at the DGD, what systems there will be if you have an issue or you feel upset at any time. There's lots of systems in place, so we'll talk through that. And then at the end, we'll have some more time for questions and answers, because we know there's a lot of information coming at you today. So don't worry, there'll be plenty of time for you to ask us questions, and we can answer those for you so that we can all feel confident as we go into next week. So it's just a brief overview of the agenda for you. Have I missed anything there, Caroline?
No, that's great. Thank you, Lucy. So does anybody have any questions about the agenda today, or anything that any comments or questions about that just now? Just see if I can see the participants list, check no one's got their hand raised. No, okay, that sounds good. So what we'll do is I'll stop sharing my screen, and if I can hand back over to you, Lucy, to do a little bit of some intros. People on the call.
Absolutely. So I can see we've got quite a few of you on the call today. So we thought it would be helpful and nice to just take a few moments for those who would like to introduce themselves to the other participants. So if you would like to introduce yourself, then feel free to raise your hand or unmute yourself and just tell us maybe your name, where you come from, and why you're excited for the DGD. That would be really great. So you can either do that out loud, or if you'd prefer, you can type that into the chat box as well. So I'm just going to give you a moment. Maybe I'll start off, and then we can try and get the ball rolling. So as I said, my name is Lucy, and I'm calling from London in England today. And I'm really excited for the DGD so that I can hear lots of different perspectives all about alternative care, which is such an important topic. Would anybody else like to introduce themselves?
It's always hard to be the first person, isn't it?
It is. It is. But if you would like to, then just feel comfortable to unmute yourself, or like I said, you can just do it in the chat box as well if that's better for you.
I think we have Sagar who's unmuted. Sagar, did you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. मेरा नाम सागर है.
My name is Sagar.
और मैं GDD के लिए बहुत ही उत्साहित हूँ.
I am very excited about General Day of Discussion.
मैं दिल्ली चांदनी चौक से रहता हूँ.
I live in New Delhi in Chandni Chowk.
Great, Brilliant. That's really nice to meet you. Thank you so much for being brave and being the first one.
Absolutely. It's great to have you on the
Thank
call.
you very much.
Thank you. And Nicoletta has put in the chat, perhaps one of the Romanian translators could read that out for us in English.
Sure. So my name is Nicoleta. I come from Moldova, and I'm glad to participate in DGD because I would like to help other children who would need my opinions. Oh.
Brilliant.
Excellent.
Thank you so much, Nicoletta. Sorry.
No, that's okay. We're both saying the same thing. It's great to have you with us, Nicoletta. Very glad that you're here as well. And I can see we've got Yara as well in the chat box. So I'll just read that out so it can be translated. So Yara said, I'm Yara from Afghanistan and I'm living in Athens and I'm glad that I could join this meeting. We're really glad that you're here as well. Sujay, I can see you've unmuted.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. I'm Sujay Joseph, and I'm from Butterflies, India, and I'm excited to participate in this and also hear children's voices on the issues which affect them.
Excellent.
Thank you so much.
It's great to have you here. Thank you for introducing yourself. Srijana, did you want to introduce yourself?
Hello everyone, my name is Srijana and I'm from Nepal and I'm very excited to participate in this DGD. Thank you.
Hi Srijana, it's great to have you with us. Thank you for introducing yourself. Anybody else like to say hello? If not, that's completely fine. It's great to have heard from you all. Okay, I think in that case, Caroline, let's keep moving and let's move on to some of that information about what the DGD is. So the way that we'll do this is I'll ask Caroline some questions and she can share her wisdom with all of us. So Caroline, to start off with, could you tell us what a DGD is, please?
Yes, and in fact, we've said DGD a lot of times already today, and I think we haven't said the full title, which is Day of General Discussion. So the Day of General Discussion is a special day organised by the Committee on the Rights of the Child of the United Nations. Other committees also sometimes have days of general discussion, but this one is organised by the Committee on the Rights of the Child. And the purpose of it is to look at a specific topic about children's rights and to look at it in more depth, to bring together experts, including children and young people with lived experience of that topic, and also experts who work in that field and people from governments and lots, all different kinds of stakeholders, which is actors who have an interest in that issue, to try and improve the situation, to try and move forward in that area of children's rights. So in this case, the topic of this particular day of general discussion is alternative care. So what we mean by that is any time when, for any reason, a child is not living with their own family, with their own parents. It can be for a temporary period of time or for a long period of time, and it's so they might be living in there are different ways that you might experience alternative care, and different ways that you might have understood it in your own lives. So sometimes it means that they might be living with other family that's not their parents, which is called kinship care. Sometimes they might be living with what we call a foster family, which is when they might have parents who are not adults that they live with who are not from their own family. Sometimes they might live in residential care, which is when they live with other children and young people who also aren't for any reason aren't able to live with their family at that time. So what we're looking at in this DGD is like all of that whole picture of children who are living outside families. And we're also looking especially at how to prevent children from being separated from their families in the first place. And then also when they are separated from their families, what are the appropriate solutions? What are good ways that we can deliver alternative care that meets the rights of children? So as you can imagine, it's a huge topic. There's so many different kinds of services involved, so many different experiences of different children. And what we've tried to do, so when I say we, there's as well as this event is being run by the Committee on the Rights of the Child, and it's also in cooperation with a group of civil society organizations. So for example, my organization Lumos is one of those. There's some others on the call here who are part of the organizing group. So we have organizations like Save the Children, Family for Every Child, SOS Children's Villages, Hope and Homes for Children, Consortium for Street Children, who are all involved in some way in organizing this together with the committee. And we have been working with a group of children and young people, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And so it was really important to us as a group to bring together all these different kinds of voices and all these kind of experience to really have a in-depth conversation about this topic and to look at where are we now and where do we need to go next for alternative care.
Thanks, Caroline. That was really helpful. So our next question is, you've mentioned them briefly already, the consultations, but could you tell us a bit more about what those consultations were?
Yes, so the Committee on the Rights of the Child the day of general discussion, although it is called a day, because there's so much to talk about and there are so many different important voices to listen to, including yourselves, and then including, as I said, like different perspectives from all around the world. We and the committee agreed that it was really important to try to listen to all of those voices and not just try to do it all on one day, because it would be impossible to hear from everybody on one day. So before the DGD, what we have done is we've worked in several different ways to listen to different people's voices and to make sure that that's taken account of in the day itself. So one way that was done is there was an opportunity for people, for organizations, and also for children to send what we call a submission to the Committee on the Rights of the Child directly. So what that is you could, so for children, they could send anything. They could send a picture or a video or a piece of text. And then for organizations, it was usually a longer piece of text. And they sent those to the committee, sharing their views about this topic. And they've all been collected together. There were lots and lots and lots of responses. We had more than 200 responses, which is the most they have ever had for one of their days of discussion on a topic. So that's really, really, really exciting and really rich. And that's been brought together into a background document, which we hope will be presented at the DGD. And it's also those things are informing the way that we're going to talk in the DGD on the day itself. And then also we're going to, after the DGD, there will be what we call an outcomes document, which brings together all of the results of these consultations and what happened on the day, so that we have a record and we can look at what are the next steps. So the first way was that people could send in submissions. Another thing that we've done to help make sure that we really collected voices of children and young people was that we had a survey. Some of you might have seen this survey or you might have participated in it. That happened in April and May. And we had a set of questions that was shared with children and young people around the world who had experience of alternative care or who had experience of the child protection system in their country. And we shared that survey and people responded to the survey and shared their views. So it was all children and young people's views on different questions about alternative care, things like, what is it important to remember to have in order to have quality alternative care? Answers about how we can help to prevent family separation, questions about how children's rights can be respected when they are in alternative care. And we got an incredible number of responses to the survey. We had 1,200 responses. It was really, really exciting. And in lots of different languages as well. And those responses have all been, again, put together into a report, which we have a version in English and French and Spanish. And we also have a child-friendly version of it, so a kind of more accessible version. And those are being shared they will be shared on the registration platform for the DGD. So you'll be able to see them there, and also hopefully on the DGD website. And so you can read, if you want to, all that information that was shared by children and young people like yourselves. And maybe some of you also contributed to that survey, which is really great. Thank you very much if you did. And then the third main way that people were able to contribute to the DGD in advance was that there were some regional consultations held. So I think in Africa, in Europe, in Latin America, and in Asia, there were regional consultations held which produced also their own reports and they were held in different ways. Sometimes it was a meeting, sometimes it was communication and drafting a report together by email. And so there were different ways that it was carried out, and those things they were put together again usually into a report, and it has that they focus in on areas that are specific to that region. So things that might have got missed if we just looked at the global picture, but things that are really important to focus on in specific regions. And those things, all of those things will be. So there are reports that already exist about them, which you might be able to look at, although it's probably quite a lot to revise in time for the DGD. But on the day itself, there will be somebody presenting the key highlights from each one of those processes on the first day in the beginning session. And I'm going to talk about the agenda after the break. But so you're going to have an opportunity, if you are attending the whole DGD, to listen to somebody present about some of those consultations. And like I said, that doesn't stop there. They're not just there to be presented and then we forget about them. The reports should be used going forward, and also they're going to be included in the outcomes document from the DGD. So when we look at, okay, we've had this day of general discussion, we've talked about this issue, we think we know what we want to do, what's next? All of those inputs that we've had from those different consultations will be included in that as well. That was very long, I'm sorry.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Caroline. It's so exciting to hear about how all those consultations are coming together next week and how all of us can be there to hear about it. Does anybody have any questions now or any comments on all of that information that Caroline has just shared with us? You can pop your question in the chat box, or you can just unmute like we did a minute ago to ask your question. I know that was a lot of information. But like Caroline said, you can find some of that information written down as well, if you're interested.
I also wanted to just share one more thing actually that I think I didn't share enough already, which is why this DGD is really special and how important child and youth participation has been in this DGD. Because we didn't just, so we had this survey, which was, as I said, it was huge and we had an incredible response from it. We also have all of you guys who might be speaking or who might be attending to listen to the DGD on the day, but we also worked really closely with a group of children and young people to help plan the day. And I mentioned that briefly before, but I want to talk about that a little bit now. So we have a group of 25 children and young people with care experience from all around the world. I think 1 or 2 of you are here in this group today, and they're called the Children's and Young People's Advisory Team. So we've been calling them the CAT and YAT, the Children's Advisory Team and Young People's Advisory Team. And they've helped really, we've consulted with them on all parts of the DGD. So they helped to, a group of them worked on helping to design the survey. So the survey was not just adults from civil society asking questions from children, it was really from children to children asking questions and helping us to decide what were the most important questions to ask. They've also helped to shape the agenda of the DGD, so the program of the day has been shaped. Obviously there's lots of different people whose different needs needed to be taken into account, but we had a really important input from children and young people to help shape that, and they've helped to shape really all of the discussions on what we're going to talk about on the day and what's important to talk about. And they've done loads and loads of work across the last 18 months with us, and I want to recognize that, and also to say, you know, that's why this is really special and important, because this DGD, I think we even more than any other before, has just had this huge participation of children and young people in the run up to it and helping us to prepare. And it's been tricky because of, as you all know, we're going through a global pandemic, and so we weren't able to do things like meet in person. Like this session should be happening in person the day before the DGD, and we should all be able to meet each other, which is a shame. But you know, we've managed to do that through working online together, and everybody's been very patient, and it's been really, really exciting to get to be in touch with more children and young people from around the world. And maybe, although the fact it's sad that we're not in Geneva, we also hope that the fact that we're online means that it's accessible to more children and young people, and that more are able to join who may not have had the opportunity to come to Geneva. So we're really, really excited to be able to work with you all in this space, and we really just want you to know that your contribution is so important. This DGD could not happen without you, and that's what's of such great value in the discussion that we're going to have on Thursday and Friday next week, and also going forward after the DGD. It's so important to have your views and for us to act on them, and for the governments and the Committee on the Rights of the Child to act on them as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, Caroline. It's really good to draw attention to those things, and to think about how we appreciate that we're online, which is not what perhaps we'd anticipated, but how we can still all be together in this way, and be excited together for what's going to happen next week. Does anybody have any questions or comments that you'd like to share on all of that information that we've just heard from Caroline? I can't see any for now, but if you do have some, or if you think of some, then just make a note of them. You can put them in the chat, or just keep hold of them and ask us out loud after the break. So I think let's take a break now, because we've just had quite a lot of information. So what we'll do is we'll take a break for about 10 minutes. I think we'll put a timer up on the screen if I'm, just to make sure we all know what's happening. And then after that 10-minute break, we'll all come back together and talk about the DGD in a bit more detail. But take 10 minutes, step away from the screen, stretch your arms, and we will see you back here in 10 minutes time. Caroline, will you share a timer, or should I get one up?
Yes, I can do it. I can share my screen with a timer. Let me just get that there. Can you all see? If I make that full screen, is that a big timer now? Is that what you can see?
It's a big timer. Yes, perfect.
Perfect. So what you can do, it's easier if you don't leave the call, but what you can do is put your microphone on mute and your video off, so then you can get a break, and when that clock goes to 0, we'll see you again.
Exactly. Okay. See you all in 10 minutes.
Okay. Okay. Great. I think then shall we get started again?
Yeah, let's keep going, shall we? So Caroline is now going to talk you through the agenda for the DGD in a bit more detail. So over to you, Caroline.
Great. So what I'm going to do is I will share my screen with the agenda on it, but unfortunately this is in English. So I'm sorry that we haven't shared a version in advance. What I will do is I'll make sure I'm slow as I go through it, and that gives the interpreters a chance to read out what's there. Just to let you know where this document comes from, we've produced an information briefing for children and young people attending the DGD. So that's for anyone, if you're a participant or a speaker. And where you can access that briefing is on the page on the DGD registration platform. So they have a little page on there called Documents for Children and Young People. And you'll be able to access this document, and it's available in English, French, and Spanish. So you can let us know if you have any trouble accessing it, or you can email when you're on the website of the registration platform. I'll talk a little bit about the registration platform in a minute, or after I talk about the agenda. But I just wanted to let you know that's where this is, so that you can look at it again later. So let me just make sure I'm on the right thing before I share my screen. And should come up with, okay, can you see a document that starts with DGD Day 1? Great. So I think the first thing I just want to say before I start sharing the agenda is to talk about time zones, because the time zone that we are using for the DGD is the time that it is in Geneva. So that's called CEST, C-E-S-T, which is here, which is Central European Summertime. The time now in Geneva is, so what time is it in England? It's 11. So the time now in Geneva is 12 o'clock, midday. So if we're talking about, so that means that if we were next Thursday, then the DGD would be 1 hour away from starting. It would be starting in 1 hour's time. I know it's really difficult to work with time zones, and I know that very few of you will be based in the same time zone as this agenda. So it's really important that you are able to try to work out what time the meetings will be at in your own time. For example, I know some of you are calling in from India today, so you will already be, now must be, what time is it? Hang on. 4:30, I think, in India Standard Time now. So that means that for you, the DGD actually starts at 5:30 on the Thursday. And then on the second day, which you'll see on the Friday, the timings are a little bit earlier. So as I'm sure you can imagine, it's really impossible for the DGD to work in everybody's time zones. That's just the way that it is. But oh, I've got something in the chat. Let me just check that that's not a message to stop me from. Oh, it's 3:30 p.m. Sorry, 3:30 p.m. in India now. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, so it's important that when you receive the agenda, and like I said, this document will be, well, the agenda, the full agenda is available as well on the registration platform where you signed up. And it's also available on the OHCHR page for the DGD. If somebody, one of my colleagues, could post the link of the OHCHR page in the chat, that would be really great, actually, if that's okay. So you've got the full agenda available, and then we've made this sort of slightly shorter version, which is available in this information document that we'll share the link for later. And it's important to look through and to try to work out what the time, and if you have a supporting organization, your supporting organization can help you to understand what the times are in your own country. Because we don't know where everybody is coming from, it's been not possible to produce an agenda for every person with the time zones in. So I just wanted to make sure that you're all aware of that. I can't really see the chat because I'm screen sharing, but if somebody just tells me anything that I need to address, if you can just speak out loud if there's anything that I need to. So yeah, so that's one thing that I want to, so that also means, for example, that if you're based in much further west, so if you're based in North America or South America, then actually the DGD is happening early in the morning for you on the Thursday, and very, very early on the Friday. It's almost in the night, really. So it's just that it's been split. The committee decided to split it over 2 days to try to cover more time zones. And I also wanted to say, really importantly, that all the DGD sessions will be recorded as well. So if you're not able to make a session that you were interested in, also there are some sessions happening at the same time, and you might be speaking in one session but really interested in another session, those recordings will all be made available afterwards. So you won't miss it if you're not able to get there at that time of day. So the first thing that's going to happen on the day on Thursday, the day of the DGD, so you will have a link to watch the DGD on. We're expecting that it will be a Zoom call, so it will be a bit like this. There are 2 types of Zoom call that are being used. Oh, it says participants can now see your screen. Could people not see my screen until now?
We could.
Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah, so what was I saying? Yeah, so it's happening on Zoom. Some of them are going to be in a Zoom meeting like this. Some of them are going to be in a Zoom webinar, which will be very similar to this. And there'll be some people also who can watch it live on UN Web TV. Because there might not be, maybe not everybody will be able to join the Zoom, or maybe not everybody will want to join the Zoom, but there will be for the opening session and the closing session, there's also the option of using the UN Web TV. All of the links for you to join it will be shared in the registration platform, so you'll have that all there. So you'll be joining a meeting that looks a little bit like this, and when you start, this first section that's here between 12:30 and 1 o'clock is just going to be like we had at the beginning of this call. people are joining. There's not a lot happening. There'll be some information on screen. There'll be some information, some practical information about interpreting and that kind of thing. So that's the purpose of that initial session, is just to make sure that everybody is there and everybody can hear and is able to understand in the language that they're using. Then we have a first session, which is half an hour long, and that is opening remarks. So what that means is it's going to be there's a few speakers who are going to say some opening welcome words to the DGD. We'll have the chair of the committee on the rights of the child. So that's the person who is at the moment presiding over all their meetings when they meet together. They get elected I think it's every 3 years, but someone feel free to type in the chat if I've got that wrong. And so she'll be making a speech. We'll have somebody from UNICEF making a speech. We have a representative from the Child and Young Person Advisory Team, which I was talking about earlier. So it's really just about welcoming everybody to the day and explaining why it's so important and setting the scene for the day, for the 2 days. Then after that, we have a session where, and this is what I was talking about before, where we're going to be hearing about some of those consultations and some of the things that they found. So this is where we were looking at, okay, we asked all these people, children, adults, people from governments, people from universities, on their most important points about alternative care. And we've brought that all together into some different reports. And in this 1 hour session, there will be some people presenting that information. So it's going to be quite a long session, and it's going to be mostly just sort of listening to presentations in that session, but they're hopefully going to be really, really interesting because it's lots of insights from around the world. We also have, again, two members of the Children's and Young People's Advisory Team who are going to be presenting some of the information that we gathered through the survey with children and young people as well. So that's that session. And then there's going to be a little break. And then after this first session, you will not stay in the same Zoom. You'll need to go to a different Zoom link to get to the next session. So when you have registered, and like I said, I'll show you the registration platform afterwards. Once you have registered, you will have all of your links for the sessions that you have signed up to. So when this session is finished, this session here from 1:30 to 2:30 Geneva time, during this short break will be the time that you can link up to your new session and go and join join the new Zoom link to join the next session that will start at 2:45. For those of you who are speaking in a working group, and I know there are some here who are speaking, whether it's on the Thursday or the Friday, we ask you to arrive 30 minutes before the start of your speech to make sure that you're comfortable, you're set up, you can hear us, we can hear you, you can hear the other speakers. So that might mean that in some cases you might miss a little bit of one of the plenary sessions. So these sessions here, they're called a plenary. It's when everybody is together in a conference. So it might mean that you might miss the end of one of those sessions to get to your session on time. It might also be that you don't want to attend that session, the plenary session, and you're more interested in going to the working group, and that's fine as well. But just wanted to let you know that if you're a speaker, there's no expectation. You don't have to stay to the end of the plenary session. It's much better to make sure that you're there half an hour before the start of your session to make sure that you're ready to speak. So after the break, maybe I'll stop for a second actually and see if there's any questions about any of that so far. I can't really see the chat, so if there's anything that's come up in the chat, let me know.
There's nothing in the chat yet, Caroline.
Okay, cool, that's good. I'll just check if I have anything through my phone. No, good. Okay, I'm going to carry on then. So after that little break, or for those of you who are speaking, you might already be in these meetings by that point, that we have 3 parallel working groups. So that means that there's a choice between 3 sessions that are happening. There's 3 things happening at the same time. And you will have chosen which working group you're in when you registered for the DGD. So you will have, so hopefully all of you have registered, and we'll talk about registration in a bit. But when you registered, you will have chosen which session you want to attend. If you're speaking, you're going to need to attend the session that you're speaking in. But everybody who's not speaking at those points in the day, then will have chosen which session you want to attend. So we have a working group on ensuring all children grow up in safe and nurturing families. And we have another one about addressing the care needs and rights of children who are separated, accompanied, or without care. And then we have a third one about access to justice and accountability for children and young people in alternative care and adults who have grown up in care. So all of those are happening at the same time. And so the first one is more about, like I was saying, it's about prevention of family separation, looking at what works to help, and especially considering that families have faced a lot more difficulties and challenges during the current COVID-19 pandemic, which is still ongoing in all around the world. So we'll be looking at how we can prevent family separation in that session, including looking at that, the side of what's happened under COVID-19. In the second session is looking more at specific categories of children who are already separated from their families and how to address that. So for example, children in street situations, children who are migrants or who are refugees or who have been trafficked. So kind of they're very specific situations. And then in the third one, it's really looking at situations where children's rights have been violated in alternative care and then what can be done about it. So it's looking sometimes at historical cases, which means things that have happened in the past that people are trying to get justice for now. And then it's also looking at things like discrimination in the care system and how we're making sure that that isn't happening, or how we can make sure that doesn't happen now. So you won't be able to attend all of these. You have to choose one. But like I said, they will be recorded so you can watch them again afterwards. And another thing that will happen is there will be somebody, what we call a rapporteur, attending, and I think the person who's going to do it is going to be a member of the Committee on the Rights of the Child. And they will report back in the next session about the things that happened in the working group. So you can also hear then about what you missed in the working groups. Okay, and then after that, there's another break. Again, it's a break for people to find their next link and go to the final meeting of the day. So it's going to be a separate link. You'll join a new Zoom meeting, and then you'll be in the final session, and it's a plenary session. So that's why we've colored it in blue. So we've colored in yellow the sessions that you have to choose. In green is like the times when nothing is really happening and it's a break. And in blue is the times when everybody is together. And that's when we're going to, so this where it says here presentation by rapporteurs of the working groups, what we mean is those 3 working groups that I just spoke about, a representative who was attending that one will come back and will explain about what happened in it and what kinds of things were talked about. And then we'll just have a quick closing remarks, which is just a quick kind of goodbye for day 1 at the end of the day. So that's day 1. Quite a busy day, lots going on. Some of you are probably speaking in day 1 as well. Does anybody have any questions about any of that so far? I'm just going to pause for a second just to let questions filter through in case you haven't had time.
Hello, Caroline, this is Oli. I'm sitting with Sagar from Butterflies. I had a question about translation and interpretation. Okay. So is it going to be simultaneous, or it is going to be first he speaks in Hindi and I translate in English? How is it going to happen?
So we know that we have translation, we have simultaneous interpretation in French and Spanish for everybody. So I'm giving an answer that's for everybody, and then I'll give you a specific answer for you as well. So for everybody, there's going to be French and Spanish and English at all times during the DGD. We also have some specific requests from some speakers to have simultaneous interpreting or consecutive interpreting, depending on what they're more comfortable with. And I think I'm following up with you directly because I think Lopa put me in touch with you about how you want to make it work. Both options are possible. It's possible to use, we have channels on the Zoom, if a speaker needs it, to add that extra, as long as they're bringing their own translator, to add that extra language in, that's fine. That won't be a problem. So I'll email you about that if that's the way that you want to go. And what some people are choosing to do instead is to do consecutive interpreting. So then what's nice about consecutive is that we get to hear the child or young person's voice. That's also before they get interpreted for. So that's, some people are choosing to do that, but some people feel like there won't be enough time to say everything I want to say if I have that restricted thing, so they're choosing to go for simultaneous. So you have the choice, and I think we're in touch by email, so we can
all right,
we can discuss it, and you can let me know if anybody else has that issue. I know we're going to have Romanian translation, I think, simultaneously for Nicoletta, but if anybody else has any questions about that, you're welcome to come to me or also to your supporting organization. But yeah, I'll be in touch with you about that, specifically for Saga. So does anybody else have any questions about anything, also including translation, if you want to talk about that now? I'll look in the chat box afterwards and see if there's anything for me after I've stopped sharing my screen, but otherwise.
There's nothing at the moment, Caroline.
Okie doke, perfect. We'll have an opportunity to ask more questions afterwards as well. So please, if you have any questions, and also if you have any questions about things that we talked about earlier as well, that's also fine. You can ask questions at the end, don't worry at all. If there's anything that comes to your mind, that's what this session is for. Okay, great. So I'll go on to day 2. So day 2 is happening on Friday the 17th of September, so next Friday, and that's in an earlier time slot. So it's at 9 o'clock Geneva time is when it starts. But what that means for all of you, it means that in Asia, in India and countries nearby there, it's going to be a much more reasonable time. But it means that for those who are based in North America, it's going to be very difficult for them to make it. So it's that little bit earlier for time slot for that one. So we've got a similar process happening at the beginning of the day. So we have this little part of the day where the Zoom will be open, so you'll join the link and there'll be about half an hour where there won't be much happening apart from some announcements about how to join, how to get your interpreting in different languages and that kind of thing. And so we'd advise you to join a little bit early just to make sure that you're able to. And then we have a really quick opening session on that day, just because it's not really there's no need for a big plenary at that point because we're not finished. It's more like if you were having a one-day conference and you went to lunch in the middle of the day, this session here is a bit like when you come back after lunch and you have somebody who says, great, we had a nice chat this morning, here's what we talked about this morning, now let's talk about the other things for the rest of the day. That's a little bit what this session is going to be, and on the Friday morning it's like bringing people back together. Also, we expect there'll be some people who, because of time zones or other reasons, won't have been able to join on the first day. So there'll be a little bit of a recap for everybody who wasn't able to join the first day, but it won't take very long. It's only going to be half an hour. And then we'll move on to the next set of working groups. So if you're speaking in working group 4 or working group 5, you won't actually need to come to this opening remarks session at all, probably. It's better if you go straight to your working group, because you need to be there half an hour before. So actually, so if anybody is speaking in working group 4 or working group 5, you probably don't need to go to this session, you just need to go straight to your working group. But if you're not speaking in those working groups and you're attending them, then it's great if you come along to this session, because then you'll be able to have a little bit of a recap of what happened the day before, and you'll be able to hear from a couple of speakers from the Children's and Young People's Advisory Team and another member of the Committee on the Rights of the Child, who are going to speak in that little session there. And then we'll move on again to the same thing. So this is the most complex, the most complex transition, because we don't have a break in between this bit where everybody's together and this bit where we have working groups. There's not a break there, so you're going to have to be able to find your Zoom link for the next session and quickly change over to the next session. There's not a transition time there. So these ones might start a little bit late for that reason, but we really encourage everybody to try, especially if you're a speaker, you need to be there half an hour before, so you just ignore the opening remarks session. And everybody just encourage you to try and get to the next session quite quickly, so you have your Zoom link already ready, so you know where you're going to go. So then this is really similar to the day before. We've got working group 4, which is about delivering appropriate quality alternative care. And then we've got working group 5, which is about transforming the system towards family and community-based care. So that one is about when countries mostly are changing their system from a system that's based on more kind of institutional care, sort of larger residential type care, towards more family-based and community-based care. So that's what that means when we're talking about transforming the system. It's about that mostly, and it's also about just in general improving services for children, making sure that we have better support for families and things like that. So making sure that the whole system is working for the best for children, just in case that one was less. And the working group 4 is a bit easier to explain. It's basically about what do we mean when we say good alternative care? What does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it mean in different types of alternative care? So what does good foster care look like? What does good kinship care look like? That kind of question. So again, I know that some of you on the call are speaking in those sessions, and then after that, again, just to say that there's 2, is not the same as the day before. Instead of 3, there's just 2 happening at the same time, but you won't be able to attend both, so you need to choose, but you'll be able to watch the recording afterwards. And then we'll move on to the final session, but I'll stop because I can see that there's something in the chat and I don't know if I need to respond to anything. Hang on a sec. It's fine. It was just someone telling me they were leaving the meeting, so that's okay. No problem. So does anybody have any questions about any of that until here? Can't see any, and that's quite the same as what I was saying for the day before. So I guess that there won't be any more questions. So then again, we have now, this time we have a half an hour break, which is nice. And again, that gives you an opportunity to line up your Zoom link for the final call, and that one will be, again, it says, oops, I zoomed in, but that's probably not a terrible thing actually. That then there's going to be one final session. So all of these 3 things, they're all happening in one final Zoom meeting, or you might be watching it on UNTV as well, because this one is also going to be available on UNTV. And so there's 3 parts to this final session. The first bit is about, like we had the day before, people coming, a representative from each working group will explain what was talked about in that working group and what the conclusions were and that kind of thing. So again, like that's also helpful for people who weren't able to attend the sessions to get an idea of what was talked about and to decide whether they want to go back and watch the recording of it later. Then we're going to have what we're calling the future looking plenary. So that session is, we're going to have some speakers who are members of the Committee on the Rights of the Child. We also have a speaker who is from the Children's and Young People's Advisory Team. And the purpose of that session is really to focus on what's next. Okay, we've heard all of these things. We know what we've talked about. We know what some of the problems are. What do we want to do together as a group of interested stakeholders? So as a group of people who care about this issue, including the Committee on the Rights of the Child, including governments, including people from non-governmental organizations and things like that. What do we want to now do as a community, or what do we want specific actors, like what do we want governments to do, what do we want civil society to do? So that's kind of, that's what that session will be. It will be about looking at the next steps and the process for how we'll get there. Obviously, we're talking about a huge number of different things at the DGD, and we only have 55 minutes in that session. So we're not going to have time to set out the whole action plan for what everybody is going to do next. But what we think that session is going to be is more about looking at how will we work together to shape the next steps? How will we work together to make sure that there is follow-up from this day, and that it isn't just a day where people are sitting there talking, but it's a day where we're moving towards something for the future, the next 10 years. What does the next 10 years of alternative care look like? What does the next 20 years look like? So that's really the purpose of that session. And then at the very end, again, there'll be some closing speeches from a few representatives, including a member of the Committee on the Rights of the Child, and again, including a member of the Children's and Young Persons Advisory Team. So that's the end of the DGD. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now so I can see if there's anything, or people's faces. Well, I'm not seeing many faces though. But as I said, and I'll show you where this document will be, but you will be able to access this document on the registration page, so you can look at it again afterwards. Does anybody have any questions then about anything? I know that's quite a lot of information. I hope it was helpful. I wonder if there's anything that's technical that I should say that I haven't remembered to say. I'll just have a little look. I
think you've covered most of what we had on our agenda, Caroline.
Cool. Okay, great. So, okay, thanks, Eugenia. That's fine. Anything else? Any other questions? Any doubts about it? Thank you, Nicoletta.
I'm sorry, but I can't stay to the end of the session, but I'm glad that I've been here with you. Thank you very much.
Oh, that's lovely. Great. Thanks very much. Okay. Any other questions at the moment, or otherwise I think we'll just move on to the next bit. So can you tell me, maybe can you do the thumbs up reaction like I'm just doing if you have already registered for the DGD? Great, Alan's registered. Eugenia, great. Anybody? Can you? Great, Shiana, thank you. So it looks like some people have already registered and some people haven't already registered. I just wanted to, Nicolette's also registered, excellent, great. I just wanted to confirm that we are asking everybody to register to attend. So especially, well, including speakers, you do need to register as well. That's because we're collecting some information like, is it okay for us to record the sessions and things like that? So we need everybody to register. When you register, you will have to complete your registration. There's like 2 stages. So first of all, you put in your email address, and then they'll send you an email, and then you need to follow the link in the email, and then you go to the next stage and you fill in a form. And at the end of the form, you choose which sessions that you want to attend. So if you're speaking in a session, you should choose that session. If you're not speaking, then you can choose whatever session is most interesting to you. But in order to complete, and if there's a time that you can't make, it's a little bit annoying the way the form is set up, but if there's a time zone that you can't make, you still need to select a session just to finish registering in the form, so that you're definitely registered to attend. I hope that makes sense. So when you're completely finished registering, you will get to a page that, and I'm going to show you the English page, but it does exist in French and Spanish as well. When you're finished, you'll get to a page that looks like this. So if you haven't yet reached that page that says, welcome, thank you for successfully completing, you probably haven't finished your registration. So it would be good to go back and check and sign in again and make sure that you've finished your registration. And then what happens is that you'll get this my personal agenda, which is like your program that shows you which sessions you registered for. So for example, there wasn't an option about registering for this one, but I'm registered for the opening remarks on the first day. And what will happen here, once everything is set up, is there will be a link there, and that will be your Zoom link to join the meeting. Or it might not be Zoom in some cases, but in most cases it's going to be Zoom. So that's going to be, that's your link there. And so that's for that's where you'll be able to receive those. Okay, you will also get a reminder email on Monday if you have registered, telling you where to find that information. But that's where you'll find all of those. And then when it's a working group, for example, so let's say on the first working group that I've registered for, which I think is the working group 2, then if you go in here, again, you have a link here to join the meeting, and there's also a little bit of information about that session that you can also read there. So that's what you get, that's what you will get to when you finish registration. Another thing I just wanted to highlight to all of you is that there is this page here called Documents for Children. It's actually Documents for Children and Young People, but there wasn't space. It's for all of you anyway. You don't have to be a child. It's for anyone who needs any extra information. So what we've got on this page at the moment is some information about these preparation sessions, which you already know about because you're here. And we will put the recordings of these sessions on this page as well. And then we also have what I was talking about earlier. Oh, it's not there yet. What will be on this page, and that's how you get here, is the information document that I just showed you, which contains things like the agenda and a little bit of information about how you'll stay safe on or what measures are in place to help you stay safe on the day, and how to join, and what is a DGD, some of the things I explained about at the beginning. So that's all in a document as well, and that document will also be shared on this page, Documents for Children. And I can really quickly show you the French version of that, because come back, hold on a minute, I can't, it's because I can't, hang on, let me try. Yes, I can get it. There we go. Yeah, there's the French page. Okay, so you can see that in the French, that if you've been registering in French, then you will automatically go through to this page. You won't need to select it. You have this option at the top of the page, and that's where you'll access it, and then you have exactly the same information and documents will be there as well. There's also going to be on that page, so as well as the information briefing document, there's also going to be a safeguarding policy for children and young people, and we're going to put some of the documents, so some of the reports from the different consultations that I was talking about are going to be put on that page as well for your information. I'll go back to the English one now. If I can't see. Okay, got it. Yes. So the other thing that I wanted to draw your attention to that's on that page is this website here, which is one way that can help you to find out what time the sessions are happening in your time zone. Another way you can do it that's really easy is if you go onto Google and you can just type the time. So let's say the DGD starts at, what time did we say it started at? 1 o'clock, so 1300. See, you can see I've been doing this a lot. And then you type the time zone that it's in, which is set, but you can actually say 1300 in Geneva, and then if you know your time zone, so in India it's IST, India Standard Time, then it tells you this is what the time will be that the DGD will start. Does that make sense? So it's a really useful way of doing it. You can just type that into Google, or like I said, you can go back to that page where there's a link to timeanddate.com. That's another way to find out. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now because I don't want to accidentally open loads of websites. Has anybody got any questions about the registration process or anything about what I've just shown you? You can also type questions in the chat as well if you need to. Okay, I'm guessing there's no questions because it's quite straightforward. If you have any difficulties with registration, there is an email address at the bottom of the page to contact if you have any trouble with it. Great. So I think we've covered most things. So I think the last thing to cover is just about what is happening around how to make sure that you feel safe and comfortable on the day. So I'll just go through some of that really quickly. So the DGD is happening in an online environment, as you know, which is really nice in some ways because it means that everybody is able to access it from their own homes. And then it also has, there's some things about it that might be more difficult. So sometimes you might find it quite tiring to be on a call like this for a really long period of time. And the first thing I wanted to say is, oh, thanks for flagging that, Alan. That's really important. You might, so when you put your email in the registration page, it might be that the first email you get back might go into your spam or your junk folder. So do check your spam or junk email folder if you haven't, because when I did it, I immediately got an email. So there's not a delay. So if you haven't received the email, it's probably because something has gone wrong or it's gone into your spam or your junk. So you just need to quickly check that. And that's how you can then get the link to finish your registration. Thank you for that, Alan. Yeah, so one of the things that we wanted to say to all of you is if you need to take a break at any time during the DGD, of course you can. You can just do what we did earlier. You can just mute and turn off your video and walk away for 5 minutes, go for a little walk. You can also completely leave the session. If you're not comfortable with anything, that's completely fine at any time. And if you feel tired, that's absolutely up to you. We also have, so some of you, there's lots of different things that are going to be talked about on the day. Some of you are speaking, some of you might also choose to speak about your own personal experiences. And sometimes that might make you feel upset afterwards, or it might be that you're listening to somebody else's experience and they say something that makes you feel upset. What you should do in those situations are, first of all, most of you, I think, will be joining the DGD with a supporting organization. So the reason that you're going to be there is probably because you've heard about this through your supporting organization, and that's why you know that you can join it. So we would recommend that first of all you talk to your person from your supporting organization. Because we're doing this online, we're not able to, it's much more difficult for other people from other countries to sort of provide any support to you. So the best people are the people who you already know, who you're already working with, who are in your organization. So that's the first port of call if you have any difficulties or you're upset about anything. It might be the case for some of you that for whatever reason, because they're not available or because there's something that you don't feel comfortable talking to them about, that you need to talk to somebody else. And in that situation, we have a safeguarding focal point for the DGD, which is my colleague from Lumos. And I think I will probably just try and put her up on the screen, just so everyone gets to see this. Let me just find the right page. So share. So this is my colleague Nancy, and she is the child safeguarding focal point during the DGD. So if at any time you, like I was saying, if you're upset and it's not something that you just feel like you just want to walk away from, or it's not something that you feel like you're able to talk to your supporting organization about, you can send a message to Nancy. So we have a phone number here that you can send a WhatsApp message to, or you can call. And we also have an email address that you can send an email to. And that's absolutely fine. There's a chance that Nancy might be busy if she's talking to another child or young person at the time. And if that's the case, she'll put you in touch with the backup person, who is Angelique. And she also works for Lumos, so they're colleagues of mine, and they're both basically, their job during the DGD is just to be there in case there's anything that anybody wants to talk to them about. They are both English speakers, but we are having French and Spanish translators available in case anybody needs to speak to them in French or Spanish. And one more thing to say is that in some of the sessions, there might be somebody that we're calling a safeguarding focal point, and they're going to be there. So if you need to message them because you can't remember the email address of the person to contact, or you just have a quick concern that you want to ask them about, then you can do that during the session most of the time. I think we're using webinar format for the working groups. So if you're not a speaker, then there'll be a different way for you to contact somebody, because you won't be able to send a private message. But that it will be made clear at the beginning of the session who you can contact in that session. And so if for any reason, like I say, we would mostly say, please contact your supporting organization, because they're the ones who you work with closest and who know you. But there might be a reason why that's not right for you. And if that's the case, then you're welcome to contact these people. That's what they're there for. They're absolutely there to help you on the day if you need it. Again, all of this information is in this information briefing, which looks a bit like this, which you will see on the page that I just showed you on the registration platform. And one final thing about safeguarding while I'm looking at this document is we've also put in here the links to, no, hang on, that's not it, a bit further. if you're joining and you don't have a supporting, there might be some children and young people who are joining who aren't joining with a supporting organisation, and they need someone to talk to in their own country who can help to follow up with the situation. We've put here this link for you to find the numbers for child helplines in your own country. So if you click on this link, it will take you to a page where you can look up the phone number to call if you need help in your country by country. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing that now, but that's all that information is included in that document. Does anybody have any questions about any of that? Okay, it looks to me, unless everybody's frozen, it looks to me like there aren't any questions. Can everybody just give me a sign that you're still alive and you're still here? Like, can you do one of the reactions? Great, thanks Eugenia. Thanks Aisling. Thanks Alan. Okay, we've got lots of thumbs ups happening now. That's good. It's good to see that everybody's still here. Great. Okay, so we've got a bit of time now. I know this was a lot of information, and like I said, we're making a recording of this session, so you can also watch this session again if you like, but most of the information of what I've said is also included in that document, so you'll be able to access that on the registration page when you get through. Does anybody have any questions about their own registration, about their own participation, anything that you want to ask about? Any questions that you have at this point? Okay, I think I'll give it another minute or another few seconds just to be sure, in case anybody's discussing it in the office and then they wanted to raise a question. Do you have also, if you have any reactions or any comments that you want to make, you can also put that in the chat. Anything you want to say about the DGD, about your participation in it or anything. You're welcome to put that in the chat or to say anything now. Okay, I think that's probably enough, and we're finishing on time, so that's good. So if nobody else has any more questions, then I think we'll stop there.
Sounds good.
Great. Okay, so I think we'll finish our session there for today. And like I said, you can always look up more information on the registration page for the DGD once you finish registering. And if you have any difficulties, please contact the person. It's Melissa, you'll see the name on the registration link. I think the registration link's been shared in the chat, hasn't it? I think. Maybe it hasn't actually. I'm just going to share that one more time just to make sure that everybody definitely has it. And there we go. Oh, maybe someone's got there quicker than me. Yeah, thanks, Aisling. Great. Okay. Brilliant. Thanks, Eugenia. Good to hear that everything is clear. Thanks, everyone. Okay, so I think we'll call it a day. Alan, you've unmuted. Did you want to? Oh.
I was only just going to say thank you and bye and see you all next week.
Great. Thank you. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank
you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. See you next week.
Thank you. Bye.